They say you can never go home again. But what if home is the last place you ever wanted to be? The black SUV rolled down County Road 17 like it didn't belong there. And it didn't. Not with those tinted windows. Not with that New York license plate. Not with Duke Carter sitting in the back seat. 10 years. 10 years since Duke Carter last set foot in Millbrook, Georgia. 10 years since he left with one duffel bag, a scholarship letter, and a promise he broke. The town looked smaller now. The water tower still said, "Welcome to Millbrook. Pop. 4208. The diner still had the same faded sign, Maggie's Best Pie in 3 counties. But the boy who used to ride his bike down these streets, that boy was gone. In his place sat a 35-year-old billionaire, CEO of Carter Development Group. Net worth $2.4 billion. Fiancé, deceased. Heart closed for business. His assistant, Claire, glanced at him from the front seat. "Sir, the town meeting is at 6 p.m. The mayor, the council, and the landowners." Duke didn't look up from his phone. "Good. This should be quick. I buy the land. They get jobs. Everyone wins." But Claire hesitated. "There's one problem, sir. The Miller farm." Duke finally looked up. "The what?" "The last 40 acres. It's owned by Grace Miller, widow, 2 kids. She refuses to sell." Duke frowned. He hated problems. "Everyone has a price, Claire. Not her, apparently. The whole town loves her. Her husband died 2 years ago. Cancer. She's been running that farm alone since." Duke leaned back and closed his eyes. He didn't come here for stories. He came here to build. Carter Resort and Spa. $200 million. 300 jobs. It would put Millbrook on the map. All he needed was that one last piece of land. The SUV pulled up in front of the Millbrook Community Center. The moment Duke stepped out, the air changed. Whispers. "That's him. That's Duke Carter. He looks just like his daddy. I heard he's worth billions. I heard he's cold as ice." And they were right. Duke wore a $4,000 suit in a town where most men wore jeans. His watch cost more than most cars in the parking lot. He smiled at no one. Inside, the room was packed. Folding chairs, coffee in styrofoam cups. The mayor, a man named Tom Hayes who Duke remembered from Little League, stood up. "Duke, boy, welcome home." Duke shook his hand. Firm, professional. "Mr. Mayor, thank you. Let's get to it." For 20 minutes, Duke presented slides, numbers, job projections. "This resort will bring tourism, revenue, and a future to Millbrook. All I'm asking for is your support." And 40 acres. The room clapped. Polite, until Mrs. Eleanor from the church raised her hand. "What about the Millers, Duke? You can't build around Grace's farm. That land's been in her family for 80 years. Duke kept his face blank. "Miss Miller will be compensated, very generously. More money than that farm has made in a lifetime." Another voice. "Younger. She doesn't want money. She wants to keep her husband's memory alive." Duke's jaw tightened. Sentiment, the one thing he couldn't afford. The meeting ended with handshakes and fake smiles. But as Duke walked out, one last thing stopped him. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, standing by the door with a basket of strawberry jam. She looked up at him with big brown eyes. "You're the man who wants to take Mama's farm," she said. Not a question. Duke crouched down, just a little. "I'm the man who's going to bring jobs to your town, sweetheart." The girl held out a jar. "Mama said to give you this. She said you look hungry." Duke stared at the jar. Homemade label. Miller Farm Strawberry Jam. For a second, something flickered in his chest. Something he hadn't felt in 3 years. He took the jar. "Tell your mom, thank you." As he drove away, he didn't open the jam. He just held it. And outside the window, the sun was setting over 40 acres of corn and an old oak tree. A farm that was about to become his biggest problem. Because Duke Carter came to Millbrook to build a resort, he didn't know he was about to find a ghost from his past. Some people wake up to alarms. Others wake up to responsibilities. And then there's Grace Miller, who wakes up to ghosts. The farm was quiet, too quiet, except for the sound of boots in the dirt, and the sound of a woman talking to corn. "Morning, boys. You're looking good today." Yes, you are. Don't you dare wilt on me now, you hear? Grace Miller was 32, but the sun had aged her to 40, and grief had aged her back to 25. Denim overalls, hair in a messy bun, dirt under her nails, and coffee in a chipped mug that said, "World's Best Dad." Her husband Michael bought her that mug 4 years ago. He died 2 years ago. Cancer took him fast. 6 months from diagnosis to funeral. Left her with 40 acres, 2 kids, $87,000 in medical debt, and a heart that still wasn't sure how to beat without him. But she didn't sell. The bank called 3 times. The developers called 5 times. Her own sister called and said, "Grace, just take the money and move to Atlanta." Grace said no. Every time. Because this wasn't just land. This was where Michael proposed. Under the old oak tree. This was where they planted their first row of corn together. This was where her kids learned to ride bikes. You don't sell memories. You water them. By 6:30 a.m., the kids were up. "Morning, Mama." Lily. 7. With Michael's eyes. Noah. 10. With Michael's stubborn chin. "Jam for breakfast?" Lily asked, already climbing onto a stool. "Jam for breakfast," Grace smiled. "And sandwiches for school. And don't forget to tell Mrs. Carter I said hi." Noah frowned. "Why do we have to be nice to them? They want to take the farm." Grace knelt down, eye level. "Because being mad doesn't grow corn, baby. And because your daddy would have said the same thing." She didn't tell them about the eviction notice. Taped to the front door, 7 days. She hid it under the Bible on the kitchen table. At 8 a.m., Grace loaded the truck. Jars of jam, baskets of tomatoes, fresh corn, farmer's market in town. It was the only income she had left. Millbrook was already buzzing when she arrived. Because of him. Duke Carter is back. He's buying half the town. He's staying at the old Carter mansion. He looks just like he did in high school. Just richer. Grace pretended not to hear. She set up her booth. Miller Farm, homegrown. Within an hour, she sold out. That's when she saw him. Duke Carter. Standing across the street. Suit, sunglasses, talking on the phone like the whole world was his boardroom. He looked older, harder, but his jaw was still the same. The same jaw she used to trace her finger over during study hall, 17 years ago. Her breath caught. No, it can't be. Duke Carter from AP Calculus? Duke who kissed me behind the bleachers senior year? Duke who left and never called back? He hung up, turned, and his eyes scanned the market. Right past her. No recognition. Nothing. Grace let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. Good. He didn't remember. That would make this easier. Or harder. At noon, her truck wouldn't start. Dead battery. Of course, she muttered, kicking the tire. Of course today. Problem? The voice came from behind her. Deep, familiar, cold. She turned. Duke Carter. Standing there, no sunglasses now, and his eyes did recognize her. Just for half a second. Grace straightened, wiped her hands on her overalls. "No problem I can't handle, Mr. Carter." "Duke? What?" "My name is Duke, not Mr. Carter." He said it like it hurt to say. Grace nodded. "Duke, my truck's dead. I'll call a tow. I can jump it." "You don't have to." I said I can jump it. 5 minutes later, the truck roared to life. Duke closed the hood, didn't look at her. "There." "Thank you," Grace said quietly. "How much do I owe you?" Duke laughed, but it wasn't a nice laugh. "You can't afford me, Grace." And then he walked away. Grace stood there, frozen. He remembered my name. That night, Duke stood on the porch of the Carter mansion. Empty, dusty, full of his father's old things. In his hand, the jar of strawberry jam from the little girl. He opened it, smelled it, tasted it. And for the first time in 3 years, since the hospital room where he held his fiancée's hand as she died, Duke Carter cried. Not because of the resort, not because of the money, but because that jam tasted exactly like the ones Grace used to make him in high school, and he had forgotten how much he loved them. Outside, 2 miles away, Grace sat on her porch, under the oak tree, with the eviction notice in her lap. 7 days. And the man who broke her heart 17 years ago was the man trying to take her home. She thought he forgot her. He thought he forgot this town. But some roots don't let go. They say grief makes you numb, but nobody tells you that seeing your first love again will wake every single nerve you thought was dead. Duke didn't sleep. He sat in his father's old study all night. Leather chair, whiskey he didn't drink, and that jar of strawberry jam on the desk. Grace Miller. The name hit him like a truck. Grace from homeroom. Grace who tutored him in calculus. Grace who he promised to come back for, and didn't. He pulled out his phone, Googled her. Grace Miller obituary. Michael Miller, widow, 2 children, farm. The article had a photo. Her at Michael's funeral. Hair up, black dress, face empty. Duke closed the laptop. This was a mistake. Coming back here was a mistake. He should sign the papers, wire the money, and leave. But at 7 a.m., his truck was already driving down County Road 17. Grace was in the field, already, kneeling in the dirt, pulling weeds. Lily beside her with a tiny basket. Noah was fixing the fence with duct tape and hope. She didn't hear the truck at first. When she did, her whole body went still. Duke stepped out, jeans this time, not a suit, like he was trying to blend in and failing miserably. "Morning," he said. Grace stood up, wiped her hands on her overalls. "Mr. Carter." "Duke, why are you here, Duke?" He looked around. "The crops, the old barn, the oak tree. I wanted to see what I was buying." Grace laughed, but it wasn't happy. "You're not buying anything." Yet, the word hung between them. Lily tugged Grace's pant leg. "Mama, who's this?" Grace knelt down. "This is Mr. Carter. He's visiting." Duke crouched too, eye level with Lily. "Hey, you're the jam girl." Lily nodded, serious. "Did you like it?" "I did," Duke said, and meant it. "Good. Mama makes the best." Noah walked over, arms crossed. 10 years old and already protective. "You're the one taking our farm." The air went cold. Grace stood up fast. "Noah, go help Lily with the basket." "But Mama, now." When the kids ran off, Grace turned on Duke. "Don't talk to my kids about this. You got it?" Duke held up his hands. "I wasn't. You think money fixes everything? You think you can just show up after 10 years and... After 10 years? Duke cut her off. His voice was low. Dangerous. "You think I forgot, Grace?" Grace froze. The wind blew through the corn. A bird called. And for 10 seconds, neither of them breathed. "You didn't call," Grace whispered. "You didn't either," Duke shot back. "I was 18. You were going to NYU. What was I supposed to do? I don't know. Something." And then it happened. The sky went dark. Fast. Georgia weather. No warning. "Storm's coming," Grace said. "Already moving. Help me get the tarp over the seedlings." For the next 20 minutes, they worked in silence, dragging tarps, securing tools, running into the barn as the first raindrops hit. Inside the barn, it was loud. Rain on the tin roof, smelled like hay and old wood and memories. Duke leaned against a post, dripping. "You still talk to your plants," he said quietly. Grace, wringing out her hair, stopped. "What?" "Back in high school, you had that tomato plant on your windowsill. You named it Kevin." Grace turned away. "That was stupid." "It wasn't." A pause. "You made me jam for my birthday. Every year." Grace's voice cracked. "Stop." "Why? Because it hurts?" Duke stepped closer. "It hurts me too, Grace. You think you're the only one who lost something?" Grace looked up at him, eyes wet. "Not from rain. My husband died, Duke. My kid's dad. What did you lose?" Duke didn't answer. He couldn't. Not yet. The storm passed in 15 minutes. When it did, half the fence was down. "I'll fix it," Duke said. "You don't have to. I want to." And he did. For 2 hours, Duke Carter, Billionaire CEO, hammered posts and strung wire. Noah watched him, then handed him nails, then worked beside him. At the end, Noah said, "You're pretty good." Duke ruffled his hair. "Had a good teacher, once." Grace watched from the porch, arms crossed, heart in her throat. 8 p.m. Duke was back at the mansion, His phone buzzed. Claire, sir, the investors want an update. Are we closing on the Miller property? Duke stared at the jam jar. Not yet. Sir? I said not yet. He hung up. 2 miles away, Grace sat at the kitchen table. The eviction notice. 6 days left now. Lily asleep on her shoulder. Noah doing homework. There was a knock at the door. Grace opened it. Duke, holding a toolbox. Fence won't hold if it rains again, he said. Came to reinforce it. Grace stared at him. You don't owe us anything. I know, Duke said. Then why? Duke looked past her. At the kids. At the photos on the wall. At Michael's picture in his army uniform. Because 17 years ago, a girl gave me strawberry jam and told me I mattered. And I think I owe her. He walked past her into the night. And Grace closed the door and cried. Day 1 was supposed to be about land, but it ended up being about 2 people who forgot how to talk but remembered how to hurt. Small towns don't keep secrets. They just wait for the right moment to tell them. By 9 a.m., all of Millbrook knew. Duke Carter was at the Miller farm till 10 last night. He was hammering in the dark like a hired hand. Grace let him in. You think something's going on? At Maggie's diner, the gossip was louder than the coffee machine. Heard he's trying to buy her. Heard she told him to get off her land. Heard they used to date in high school. That last one shut the whole place up. Mrs. Eleanor, who taught both of them in 11th grade English, set her cup down slow. Well, I'll be. Duke heard it too. He was at the hardware store buying fence posts and nails. Again. Morning, Duke, said Hank the owner. You and the Miller woman, old friends? Utter two. Duke kept his eyes on the receipt. Just fixing a fence. Uh-huh. That's a mighty expensive fence you're fixing. Duke paid and left, but the look in Hank's eyes followed him out. He didn't care what they thought. He told himself that. All the way to the farm. Grace was at the market again. He found her there, arranging jars. She looked tired, dark circles, but she still smiled at customers. Can we talk? Duke asked. About what? The fact that the whole town thinks we're sleeping together? Duke flinched. Do you care what they think? Grace looked up. I have kids, Duke. I care what they hear at school on Monday. She was right. I'll stay away, he said. The words tasted like gravel. Good, Grace said, but she didn't sound like she meant it. That afternoon, Noah showed up at the Carter mansion, alone, bike leaning against the porch. Duke opened the door. Surprised. Hey, what's up, buddy? Noah held out a toolbox. Mama said you left this at the farm. She said to return it before you sue us or something. Duke took it. She say that? Not exactly. She said be polite. Duke crouched down. You mad at me, Noah? Noah shrugged. Big 10-year-old shrug. Mama cries at night, since you came. So yeah, kinda. The words hit Duke in the chest. Come here, he said. And before he could think, he pulled the kid into a hug. Noah stiffened, then relaxed. When they pulled apart, Duke's voice was rough. I'm not trying to hurt your mom. I promise. Then don't take the farm, Noah said simply, and rode away. Duke stood on the porch a long time after. Duke couldn't stay away. He told himself he was just checking the property lines, but his feet took him straight to the old oak tree. The one in the middle of the field. The one Grace was always under in old photos. The ground around it was soft, from the storm, and there, half buried, was a corner of something metal. Duke knelt, used his hands. A small box, rusted, locked. He didn't think, he just pulled it out. Inside, 1. A yellowed receipt, paid in full, St. Mary's Hospital, Michael Miller, signed, Robert Carter, date, 8 years ago. 2. A folded letter. 3. A photo. Duke's hands started shaking. He opened the letter first. Dear Mr. Carter, thank you for paying Michael's hospital bills when the insurance ran out. You said no man should lose his farm because he got sick. You never told anyone. You made me promise not to tell. Michael made it 2 more years because of you. We got to say goodbye properly. If you're reading this, it means you came back. And if you're thinking of taking this land, please remember what your father did here. He didn't build with money. He built with kindness. Grace M. Duke read it twice, 3 times. His father, his dad, who died when Duke was in college, had secretly paid for a stranger's cancer treatment. And then he looked at the photo. It was prom night. 17 years ago, him, 18. In a rented tux. And Grace, 17. In a blue dress she made herself, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. On the back, in her handwriting, to Duke, don't forget me. G. The world tilted. He remembered now. The promise. I'll come back for you after graduation. The letter he never sent. The girl he left behind because he was scared of small-town life. Oh God, Duke whispered. He dropped to his knees in the dirt, right where Grace knelt every morning. He came here to take her land. And he found out his father saved her husband's life, and that he'd once promised to marry her. He didn't wait. He drove to the farm, box in hand. Grace was on the porch, shelling peas. She saw his face and stood up immediately. What's wrong? Duke held out the box. Did you know? Grace looked at it, and all the color drained from her face. Where did you find that? Under the oak. Did you know my dad paid for Michael's treatment? Grace nodded. Slow. He made me swear. Said you were too proud. Said you'd try to repay him and ruin yourself. And the photo? Duke's voice broke. Did you know that we... Grace's eyes filled. I never thought you'd remember, Duke. You left. You built an empire. You moved on. I didn't move on, he said. I buried it. After Sarah died, I buried everything. Grace stepped back. Don't bring her into this. I'm not. I'm saying I was broken, and I think I've been broken since I left you. The screen door slammed. Noah, standing there, hearing everything. Mom? Grace wiped her eyes fast. Inside, baby. Now. But Noah looked at Duke. You knew her before? Duke nodded. And you left her? Duke couldn't lie. Yes. Noah picked up a rock, threw it. It missed Duke's feet by inches. I hate you, and ran into the house. Silence. Just crickets and the wind. Grace looked at Duke, tired. You should go. I can't, Duke said. Not now. Not after this. Then what, Duke? What do you want? Duke looked at the farm, at the house, at her. I don't know, he whispered, but I know it's not the resort anymore. He turned and walked away, leaving the box on the porch step, and nothing would ever be the same. He came looking for land. He found debt paid, promises broken, and a girl in a blue dress. Now the question wasn't if he could afford the farm. It was if he could afford to lose her again. They say you find out who people really are when they have to choose, between money and mercy, between the past and the future, between a building and a heart. Millbrook hadn't been this packed since the high school football state finals. The community center was full, standing room only. Mayor Tom Hayes banged the gavel. All right, let's keep this civil. But it wasn't going to be civil. On one side, Duke Carter, in a suit, investors behind him in ties. On the other side, Grace Miller, in her best dress, the blue one, Lily on one hip, Noah holding her hand, the whole town watching. Because word got out, about the box, about the letter, about prom night. Mrs. Eleanor had told someone, who told someone, and now everyone knew Duke and Grace had history. Duke hadn't slept in 2 days. He kept seeing the photo, hearing Noah say, I hate you, seeing Grace's face when she said, you should go. Claire leaned over. Sir, the investors are getting nervous. If we don't announce the land acquisition today, they walk. 200 million. Gone. Duke nodded, but he wasn't listening. He was looking at Grace. She looked smaller than he remembered. Tired. Mayor Hayes cleared his throat. Mr. Carter, you have the floor. Duke stood up. For the first time in his life, his hands shook. Carter Development wants to build a resort here. 300 jobs, 200 million investment. Murmurs. Some clapping. But there's one property we don't own yet. The Miller Farm. He looked right at Grace. I came here 4 days ago thinking this was just business. He paused. I was wrong. The room went dead silent. 3 days ago, I found something on that property. A letter. From my father. He held it up. My father paid for Mr. Miller's hospital bills 8 years ago, in secret, because he believed no one should lose their home because they got sick. More murmurs. And I also found out, Duke's voice cracked, that Grace and I, we knew each other. A long time ago, before I left for college, before I made promises I didn't keep. Grace's face was stone, but her knuckles were white around Lily. So I have a choice to make, Duke said, and I'm making it now. He turned to his investors. We're not building on the Miller farm. Gasps. Claire stood up. Sir, you can't. I can. Duke cut her off. And I am. One investor threw his folder down. You're insane. We're out. And they walked out. All 4 of them. 200 million. Gone. Just like that. The room erupted. Did he gave it up? For her? Mayor Hayes banged the gavel. Order! Outside, it was chaos. Reporters who'd heard about the meeting were there. Mr. Carter, why did you pull out? Ms. Miller, did you know about his father? Grace pushed through with the kids, head down. Duke caught up to her by her truck. Grace, wait! Don't, she said, not looking at him. You just tanked your company for me. Don't make this my fault too. It's not your fault. It's my choice. Why, Duke? Why did you do that? He stepped in front of her, blocking the door. Because 17 years ago, I chose money and ambition over you. And 3 days ago, I almost did it again. He took a breath. I'm tired of choosing wrong, Grace. Lily was watching. Noah was glaring. Grace shook her head. You don't get to do this. You don't get to ruin your life and then say it's for me. I'm not ruining it, Duke said. I'm finally living it. He reached out, brushed a tear off her cheek she didn't know was there. Can I help? With the farm? No strings. No land deal. Just help. Grace stared at him for a long time. Then she opened the truck door. Get in. We have to get these kids to 4-H. Duke blinked. That's a yes? That's a, don't make me regret this, she said. Grace collapsed. Fever, 102. Stress, plus exhaustion, plus not eating. Duke got the call at 2 a.m. from Mrs. Eleanor. She's at Millbrook General. The kids are with me. He was there in 10 minutes, sitting by her bed when she woke up at dawn. Hey, he said softly. Grace tried to sit up. What are you? Shh. You're sick. You have to rest. He held out a cup. Chicken soup. Mrs. Eleanor's recipe. Grace took it, hands shaking. You didn't have to come. Yes, I did. They sat in silence, monitors beeping, sun coming up over the parking lot. I'm scared, Grace whispered finally. Of what? Of you leaving again. Of hoping. Of the kids getting attached. Duke set the soup down, took her hand. I'm scared too, he said. I've been scared for 17 years, scared of small towns, scared of love, scared of losing people. He squeezed her hand. But I'm more scared of not trying this time. Grace cried then, really cried, and Duke just held her hand, didn't let go. Duke didn't go back to New York. He called his board and resigned as CEO. Find someone else, he said. I have a farm to help run. He showed up at 5 a.m., in jeans, with coffee. Teach me, he told Grace, who was still pale but stubborn. Teach you what? How to farm, how to be here, how to be whatever this is. And she did. They planted, they weeded, they fixed the barn. Noah started talking to him again, slowly. Lily made him a drawing. Mr. Duke and Mama. No papers were served. And he came to buy 40 acres. He lost 200 million. He gained a second chance. Sometimes the best deals are the ones you walk away from. They say time heals everything, but sometimes it just gives you a second chance to get it right. 1 year later. The sign at the entrance used to say, Miller Farm, Est, 1942. Now it says, Miller Carter Community Farm. Growing food, growing hope. 40 acres. No resort. No billion-dollar deal. Just corn, tomatoes, strawberries, and second chances. Duke was already in the field. Jeans, boots, dirt on his face. He'd learned how to drive a tractor, how to conjam, how to tell when corn was ready. Grace walked up behind him with 2 mugs of coffee. "Morning, Farmer Carter." Duke turned and smiled. A real smile. The first one he'd had in years. "Morning, Boss Miller." They clinked mugs. The farm was different now. Half the produce went to the Millbrook food bank. The other half went to Duke's Diner, a little farm-to-table restaurant they opened in town. Hired 12 people, all locals. The Carter mansion turned into transitional housing for widows and single moms. Grace ran it. Duke funded it. No investors, no board meetings, just them. Lily, now 8, came running across the field. "Daddy Duke, come see, the strawberries are ready." She still called him that. Started 6 months ago, after he taught her to ride a bike. Grace didn't correct her. Noah, 11, walked up next. Taller, less angry. He tossed Duke a glove. "You coming to my game? I'm pitching." Duke ruffled his hair. "Wouldn't miss it, kid." At night, all 4 of them ate dinner at the big kitchen table. Michael's picture was still on the wall, but now there were new photos too. Duke and Grace at the farmer's market. Duke teaching Noah to fish. All 4 of them under the oak tree. Grace still missed Michael, but she didn't feel guilty for smiling anymore. Millbrook changed too. When Duke pulled out of the resort, everyone thought the town would die, but it didn't. Millbrook Farms became a brand. Tourists came for the jam, for the diner, for the small-town love story. Mrs. Eleanor sold out of pie every Sunday. Hank at the hardware store had to hire help. The mayor gave Duke a key to the city. Duke said, "I don't want it. Give it to Grace. She's the one who stayed." October. 1 year to the day since Duke found the box. The leaves were gold. The air smelled like apples and smoke. Grace was under the oak tree, planting bulbs for spring, like she did every year. "Need help?" She didn't have to turn around. She knew that voice. Duke sat down beside her in the dirt. No suit, no phone, just him. For a while they didn't talk, just dug, together. Finally Duke pulled something from his pocket. Not a ring, not yet. The photo, prom night, 17 years ago. "I kept this," he said quietly, "in my wallet. All these years, even in New York, even after Sarah died, I told myself it was guilt, but it wasn't." Grace looked at him. "It was love," Duke finished. "I was just too scared to say it." Grace's eyes filled. "Duke, wait," he said, and pulled out a small wooden box, hand-carved, by him, in the barn last winter. Inside, a simple gold band, and a folded piece of paper. He opened it, his handwriting, shaky. "Grace, I came back to Millbrook to build buildings. I stayed because you taught me how to build a life. I don't have 200 million anymore, but I have you. I have Lily and Noah. I have this farm, and I have a second chance I don't deserve. Will you marry me? Not because of my father, not because of the past, but because of tomorrow." "Duke." Grace was crying now, full on. "Duke Carter, you're an idiot." She laughed through tears. "I know," he said. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." Duke slipped the ring on her finger, and then he kissed her. Under the same oak tree where Michael proposed. Under the same sky where they were 17 and stupid and in love. It wasn't the same kiss. It was better, because this time neither of them were running. 6 months later, small wedding. In the field. White chairs, string lights. Lily was flower girl. Noah was ring bearer. Mayor Hayes officiated. Mrs. Eleanor cried the whole time. Vows were simple. "Duke, I promise to choose you, every day, even when it's hard. Grace, I promise to let you, and to love you louder than the fear." After, they danced in the barn, just them, to an old country song. And at the end of the night, Duke carried Grace over the threshold of the little farmhouse that was finally, truly, home. He came to Millbrook to buy land. He left with a family. He thought he lost everything when he walked away from 200 million. But he found everything when he chose love instead.